Hi there! I'm going to tell you how I make my sourdough bread. It's different than any other kind of sourdough bread that I've ever seen, but I really like it. I think it tastes good and it takes less time, less steps. So this is what I do. Chlorine in the water can kill yeast. So therefore, first I boil a pot of water for 15 minutes. That gets the chlorine out of the water. Then I let it cool down to room temperature. And then I measure out a cup of water that I'm going to use for the sourdough bread. Then I take some shortening and I grease a thin tin aluminum pie pan. And then I take some flour and I pat it all around. Then I measure out half of a tablespoon of salt plus 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and I add it to 3.5 cups of unbleached white flour. Then I take a cup of my previously boiled and cooled down water and I add some of it to the salt, and then I mix up the salt and the water and a little bit of the flour. That way the salt is already mixed in a little bit and dissolved, because salt can kill yeast. And so the more I can just dissolve it a little bit, the better. And then I just add a little bit of the water and I'll add a little bit more water later. Now the reason why I only added half of the water and stirred up the salt in that is because next I'm going to add the sourdough starter. And that's going to add some liquid to the mix. And sometimes the sourdough starter is more liquidy, sometimes less. And so after you mix in the sourdough starter, you'll know if you need to add all of the next half a cup of water or maybe just a little less. Then this is my starter, and I make sure I have at least a cup of starter, and I open it up and stir it around. I take it right from the fridge. Stir it around, and then I measure out 3/4 of a cup or a little bit more, not quite a cup, and then I add it to the other side of the flour. Then I'll mix that up together, and then I'll look at the texture, see how much more water I need. I'll add some more water and then stir that up, and then I'm gonna transfer that into an actual mixing bowl, because that's what I should have started with, but I wasn't thinking too far ahead. So here I am, I'm adding some water, and then I'm going to stir it up just a little bit. The original recipe called for 1.5 cups of water, but here where I live, that was way too much water. It was very runny. Maybe in a drier climate, that would be perfect. And then I put it on the mixer. And then it mixes it up real good. And I kind of check it periodically just to see how it's doing. It comes together pretty quickly. And then I let it mix and mix. Check it, and then I let it mix for 8 more minutes. Mixed it just a little bit longer. And then it was ready. So then after that, I took it out and I put it in my previously floured pan. Here I'm just showing you the kind of the look of it at this point before I put it in the pan. So then I put it in my greased and floured pan. And here I'm again showing you just the texture of it. And then I pat that all down. Next, I take a thing of plastic wrap and I take some shortening and I hold down the plastic wrap onto the table, and I put some shortening all over the middle part of it, which I'm going to be putting over the dough. I put it one way, and then I turn it, and then I put some more not greased on top of that. So there's showing you another sheet of it that I put on top of that. So I've got 2 sheets and I fold it all around. And then I get a plate and I put my pan onto the plate. I'm going to put it into the microwave, not to cook. It's just that's a really great place for it to rise. And so I take some warm water and I put it in there, and then I put the sourdough bread dough in there and I shut the door. Here's what it looks like after about 4 hours of rising. Then, after it had been sitting for a total of 8 hours, I preheated my oven to 400 degrees. My dough had risen really nicely. Yay! It's ready to be baked. So then I take off the plastic wrap carefully. And it didn't stick because I had the greased shortening all over it. And it will rise even more in the oven. Then I put it in the oven and I set my timer for 52 minutes. Then it was done. Yay! I turned off the oven light. I turned off the oven. I believe the white marks on top of the bread are due to the shortening that was on the plastic wrap. I like having it browned a little bit on top. It has that ring around it kind of because of the shortening that it absorbs. That's what the reason for that is, but it tastes really good. Hope you try it. Have a good day. Bye.